Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Ioanna Nixon.
I am Dr. Vilma Pacheco Barcia, and this is Open Doors Podcast, two women scientists driven by curiosity, evidence, and compassion.
In each episode of the podcast, we will be exploring what it takes to stay grounded when life gets unpredictable, and how people adapt to things like moving abroad, building a startup, women in academia, or navigating the pressure of medical school, because life happens.
But before we dive into their stories, we want an episode to talk about the why resilience matters, what it actually is, and how science explains this thing we all need, especially now, Ioanna.
I know, and it's so relevant, Vilma. Resilience is often described as the ability to bounce back like a rubber band. But that's not quite right, isn't it? Because the truth is, after we face something hard, something that challenges us, we rarely go back to being the same. We change.
A better way to talk about resilience is that it is not about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward. Difficult situations change you. It's your capacity to adapt, to grow, to keep going, not because you've never shaken with situations, but because we learn how to regain our balance.
Exactly. It almost feels as if we need to talk about what resilience is not about. And it doesn't mean that you never feel overwhelmed by emotions. You never feel scared when you're challenged. It means you know how to work with those emotions, not to be ruled by them.
The European Society of Medical Oncology Resilience Task Force published in September 2024 a series of recommendations to manage psychosocial risk, optimize well-being, and reduce burnout in oncology. So why don't we dive in? There were some clear thoughts and themes in the research.
Indeed, Vilma, and predictably, if we look at the top of the list, workload concerns and worries around professional development were really high up.
They evaluated these problems in surveys. They also recommended some very valuable and practical solutions. They emphasized that the continued use of virtual tours and resources, that's something that really taken off after the pandemic, and maybe that those are key support mechanisms we can use along the way.
Absolutely. And there's a lot around supporting each other and supporting specific risk groups, isn't it, Vilma? The panel was very clear that some professionals are more vulnerable to burnout, more prone to burnout than others. So whether due to roles, workload, or even stage of career, and they need targeted support.
Right, Joanna. All of these insights led to 11 recommendations. We really recommend all of you to go through them. They're grouped into information and training, access to resources, and broader advocacy.
And it's really great because it's not basically targeting it from just one angle. It's not top level. It's very comprehensive and tailored. It is addressing it in its core at the root, isn't it, Vilma? It's about building a system in oncology for professionals where they can thrive rather than surviving.
Yes. And if we had to say what is the key message for today, I think certainly one of the key messages is what is the best part of resilience? It's not a trait you were born with or without. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned. What the science tells us about this?
Yeah, and I love the fact that you mentioned that it is a skill, like every muscle in your body. Let's think of that. And it's very relevant to your question. You can start building on what this muscle does. And let's think of resilience as a muscle. So let's start with the brain. So neuroscience shows that our brain is constantly changing, and that's called neuroplasticity. And when you face something difficult, something that challenges you, and let's start from, for example, learning Spanish. Hola, Vilma. So if I start learning Spanish, I'm challenging my brain. And of course, this challenge is not like a failure in life or something that causes major trauma, but it causes a shift. So your brain rewires itself to adapt, especially if you have certain protective factors.
We should then maybe focus on the three key ingredients scientists often point to. The first one, I would say, supportive relationships. We're always talking about our mentors in our work, our friends, our family. The number one predictor of resilience is this, our relationships. Having someone you can talk to someone you can rely on. That makes stress easier to handle.
100%. And that is, in addition, an element of self compassion. So people who reach out to others to seek help and support, they're more resilient as a result of being more self compassionate. The second thing is a flexible mindset. Let's call it a growth mindset. This doesn't look as, it doesn't look at, I don't like the word failure, but I'm going to use it. It doesn't look at a failure as something that defines one. It reframes it. So it is the ability to reframe, asking, what do I learn from this? This is an experience. What can it make possible for me? What doors can it open in the future for me? And that is a subtle shift in perspective that can literally change our stress responses to these events.
One of the long-term studies that we've discussed before, a study from Harvard, tracked people over 75 years. What was their conclusion? That strong relationships and purposeful coping strategies were more important than income, IQ, when it came to resilience and long-term well-being. So we really need to try to cultivate our mindset and our daily habits to try to address and benefit from it and our resilience.
If I hear you correctly, then it's nurturing relationships in and outside our workspace. Science is amazing, is great, but what does this mean for you? So maybe you've moved to a new country and you feel like a stranger. Maybe you're building something from scratch and wondering how you're best going to do it. You feel that you start from zero and you fear that you may fail. Maybe you're studying something so intense that you barely have the time to breathe. So what do you do?
That is a great question, and something we're going to discover in our episodes, the upcoming ones with our guests. It is important to highlight that we need to take care of our community, of our people, and use very supportive relationships in our day-to-day basis.
So hang on a minute. Are you saying that science says that longevity is actually influenced hugely by the way we connect with others and our relationships?
It is important to take care of ourselves and take care of others and the people who are with us.
There's another study published in Psychiatry Research that found people who practice daily cognitive reframing, in other words, learning to shift how they interpreted challenges. Physical self-care matters. It matters too. And I think this is how both of us got connected. We both love a bit of exercise. Going back to the point about sleep, we know that sleep deprivation can reduce our brain's ability to regulate emotions, and that can be up to 60%, which is really, really high, according to research from UC Berkeley. So yes, going to bed early is resilience work. And at that point, I just wanted to say to whoever is listening, don't get anxious about all these things. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be enjoying life and that we work towards being resilient.
Exactly. I think one of the main topics will be that we need to take care of other things as well, as you were saying, Ioanna. And our lifestyle is very important. Our habits, our daily routines are very important as well.
Agree. And science is great, but what does this mean for you and for whoever is listening?
And something that I think we need to talk about as well is women navigating academia. A recent report found that 42% of women in academia report symptoms of burnout. These are all different kinds of pressure, but the thread that ties them all together is this: resilience is the fuel behind every step forward.
And that brings me nicely to us. How can you check in with your own well-being? There's a great tool in the WHO 5 Wellbeing Index developed by the World Health Organization, and it's very simple. 5 statements, and you score how true they've been for you over the past 2 weeks. And these are: number 1, I felt cheerful and in good spirits. 2, I felt calm and relaxed. 3, I felt active and vigorous. I woke up feeling fresh and rested. My daily life has been filled with things that interest me. It's an interesting tool to start looking at your own scores and follow it through and understand what factors impact this positively. So what changes you can make so that your scores become better.
The WHO-5 is used in over 30 countries and has been validated across cultures as a reliable indicator of well-being and early signs of depression. It's clearly not a diagnosis, but as you said before, it's a red flag. In clinical studies, those that scored under 13 were found to be 2.5 times more likely to screen positive for depression or anxiety. That's why tools like these matter. You just need a moment of honesty, like, I'm not feeling well. How am I doing my well-being? And I think this tool is very good. So you can just see how you are doing and what might I need right now.
In all of that, this is a tool about self-awareness, isn't it? It's checking in with yourself, connecting with yourself, and seeing where you stand in the moment. What can we take away from today then, our introduction to open doors? I think, to me, a key thing I want to share with everybody is that resilience does not mean that you are a hero. And resilience is a journey. It's being human, and it lies in every small choice that we make. Taking a breath, calling a friend, reframing failure, getting some sleep, and actually looking at failure through different lenses, because it is the challenges that actually enable us to grow.
Whether you're starting over in a new country, you're building a business, you are studying day and night, resilience isn't just about surviving. It's about staying connected to what truly matters while you do. So I am very happy that in upcoming episodes, we'll meet professionals with different stories and the same thread: growth through challenge. That's what Opens Doors podcast is about.
Let's leave everybody with a small challenge. Take 3 minutes today. Answer the WHO 5 questions. I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. This is Dr. Ioanna Nixon.
This is Dr. Vilma Pacheco Barcia from Open Doors podcast.
And remember, you belong in the room.
You belong in the room.